And just let us know when you see it.
And we are live on YouTube.
All right. So, welcome to our reading of the second part of Mad Max Fury Road. Our first half was a little disjointed, but hopefully today it'll go a little smoother. And in case you missed the first half, I'm going to give a quick little recap of our show, and then we'll go into introductions, and then we'll go ahead and um, get right into the script. So, um, in the first half of our script, we met our protagonists. We have two in this case. We have the prey. I'm not even quite sure how to pronounce her name. Um, and it's not really a name, it's more of a title, isn't it? Praetorian and our Mad Max character. And, anyways, Mad Max has been captured in a citadel and he's escaped along with the Praetorian, who's escaped in a vehicle with several beautiful young women that she is trying to rescue and take across the desert to the place of many mothers. And in pursuit is Nux and some of his warriors working for the Immortan. And this movie so far has been a giant chase scene, and it will continue to be a giant chase scene till the end of the movie, I believe.
Do you need me to read for anything?
No, we don't have any other lines for you right now, Matthew. So we're just doing our introductions right now. And I've got them all cast. So we're going to do introductions with our characters, say who you're playing, and say your name, pronouns, where you're from, who you're playing. There we go, in that order. And where folks can find you on social media if they're inclined to do so. And I'll just call you down in player order. So player number 1 is, I believe, Hannah.
Hi, I'm Hannah Butterfield, and I'm playing the WAG, knowing another Volvalini, a Mirror Scout, and Elite Guard. And you can find me on Facebook and Instagram. Yeah, I don't know the handles right off the top of my head, but I'm sure you can search Hannah Butterfield. It's not too hard.
All right, awesome. And Hannah's also got several, we've all got several sections of actions and descriptions. So, Haley.
Hello, I'm Haley Bayermeister. I go by she, her pronouns. I am coming from Houston, Texas. You can find me on Facebook under Haley Elizabeth, and my Instagram is hasty247. I don't know why it's that, but it's that. And yes, I will be playing Capable, and I will be also reading Nux at a certain point, and then yes, actions and directions as well.
All right. Player 3 is me, a Kat Wilson, she, her, Gig Harbor, Washington, playing 3 small roles today: War Boys, Fragile, and People Eater, and 1 small section of actions and descriptions. And you can find me on Facebook, Catherine Devaney de Foxfire Wilson, or on Saturdays you can find me reading with Two Households in Fair Corona, a Shakespeare reading group. Moving on to player 4 is Vicky Dykes.
Hello, I'm Vicky Dykes. I come to you from Penhold, Alberta, a small town, but close to 3 fairly large cities. So there's work out there. I am she, her for pronouns. And tonight I am reading a Volvolini Scout, Ancient Man, and I'm doing actions and descriptions in a couple of spots. And you can find me on Facebook under the name Vicky Dykes, and I'm on Instagram. I'm YogaGramma10.
Awesome. Player 5, let's move down to Enrica.
Hi, I'm Anamika Farrow. I also use she, her pronouns, and I'm in Northern California. Tonight I'll be reading The Praetorian and Actions and Descriptions. You can find me on Facebook, and I second, if you are a Shakespeare nerd, highly recommend Two Households in Fair Corona. It's a great group.
Awesome. And joining us in a few minutes will be Aubrey McCoy, and she'll be reading the parts of Road Warrior, Pole Scout, and the Immortans, as well as a few more actions and descriptions. So if you haven't figured it out yet, this film is an action film and full of action descriptions, and we'll have lots and lots of pictures to go along with that as well. And I think without further ado, then we'll get going here. Let me pull up our screen on our script. And we're going to jump right in page 184, I believe. So we left them off with the Praetorian and the gals have just escaped from the bad guys temporarily. They've gone on ahead without him, and he's wandered off, kind of coming up behind. Is this the last they'll see of him? No, it's not. And we'll start here with Hannah. Take it away when you're ready. Oh, is it big enough? Need it larger?
You're,
Don't.
you're not sharing.
Was it not sharing? Oh, I'm so sorry. Let's try that again. That would help, wouldn't it, if you could actually see the script? My fault. Let's see here. Let me do it this way. Share. And there's our script. Okay. Oops. That's probably too large, isn't it? And let me adjust the screen here. Minus. How's that?
Much better.
All right. You can see that okay?
Yeah.
Yes. All right. Along the causeway, Nux is running out in front, checking that the track is clear. The Praetorian nurses the faltering engines. They are being watched. Eerie beings on stilts lurch out of the quagmire. Even worse, the bullet farmer is back on their tail. The peacemaker ramps up onto the causeway, guns barking. The war rig has stopped. Nux pours fluids into the radiators. The girls watch anxiously as the Praetorian stands between them and the approaching. It might be a little too big. Oh, there we go. Thank you. The approaching gunfire. The peacemaker must be past the road warrior by now. It sounds so close. It might burst out of the mist at any moment. But suddenly, a great orange fireball lights up the fog like a giant lantern. Now there is a short burst of gunfire, a scream or two, and then nothing. The Praetorian turns to Nux.
Set the engines.
Nux does so.
What's that sound?
Silence.
No, out there.
Indeed, there are sounds, ominous disturbances out in the quagmire, the muffled flutter of wings and approaching footsteps. A lone figure emerges from the mist. It's the road warrior, drenched in blood. He's loaded with firearms, gun belts, bandoliers, and there's a steering wheel.
How are the motors?
We could use another half hour.
He hands her a useful-looking assault rifle. She nods her thanks. He tosses her the steering wheel to Nux.
Do something with this.
He unloads the rest of his acquisitions on the cabin floor. We find poor Fragile huddled there, recoiling from him. He looks downright demonic. He brushes past the others. Are you hurt?
No.
You're bleeding.
It's not his blood.
They watch as he washes away the stains of the night's slaughter. Nux, meanwhile, is busy fitting the new steering wheel. Tap, tap, bang! His efforts echo. Across the quagmire, the eerie stilt walkers are creeping, unseen, towards them. Now something very worrying. The distant sound of engines coming on fast.
Quiet!
Nux stops banging. Motorbikes. They seem to be coming from all directions. But how could that be? And how could they be moving so freely in the sand? Helter-skelter, they start up the rig. The road warrior takes the wheel. Nux rides out in front, and the Praetorian loads up the new weapons. They don't go far before they see a light on the road ahead. A single light coming straight at them at speed, playing chicken with the war rig. The road warrior and the Praetorian fire their guns as Nux scrambles from the impeding impact. Then, something they don't expect. The light rises off the track and soars up over them, dropping a napalm-like incendiary into the cabin. The airborne vehicle arcs high above the causeway. The rotarator, for what it's called, is a jerry-built, double-bladed gyro powered by a motorbike engine. Its decrepit pilot looks down as a second rotarator swoops in for an attack. The cabin is a frenzy of smoke and flames. The second rotarator approaches from behind, but Nux is waiting for it with a harpoon. Thud! Into the guts of the machine. The pilot tries to glide away, but is tethered to the rig. The road warrior stomps on the brakes. The rig slows abruptly. The rotarator is flung forward into the ground. He hits the accelerator. The rig thunders forward. The rotarator disintegrates. The road warrior keeps a close watch on its mate as it hovers. I'm sorry. I think our screens on the side are covering the right part.
Let's see. Let me shift it over a little for you. I know this thing's a little weird. Let me just make it a little smaller for you then. How's that?
That's better. Thank you. Its mate hovers out over the
Quagmire?
quagmire. Okay. Sorry, I couldn't see the word.
No,
Thinking the better of it, it flies off into the mist. The smoke clears, and the Praetorian finally
sorry about that. That did not mean to do
Okay.
that.
Finally gets a chance to dress the wound in
Her hip. All right. I can't see what you're seeing, so
I'm sorry, is
no, it's fine.
the
You might be able to drag the side view where we are. You might be able to like drag it over so you can see more.
yes.
Or maybe change your view so like I don't know if that would work, but like speaker only or something like that. So there's fewer of us.
Okay, sorry about that. Yeah,
that's
I
fine.
No
got it. I
worries.
could drag it. I don't have a lot of Zoom experience. Okay, it's good now. Sorry. The smoke clears, and the Praetorian finally gets a chance to dress the wound in her hip. The girls see to Capable, who has been splashed by the napalm. Nux appears at the window, concerned for her. They look to the Praetorian, hoping now she'll go easy on him.
Stay on the outside, away from the weapons.
What do you make of that? Kites, a dozen of them, rising out of the quagmire. They are being attacked by hundreds of crows. The wag lifts her telescope. Human forms on stilts, tree dwellers, are flying baited kites. As the crows attack, they become hooked on the nets. Oh. They're sky fishing. The war rig cruises on through the night, watched by the creatures who haunt this godforsaken place. Fade to black.
Part 4. A New Day. Crows are swirling around the war rig as it heads out into the desert, leaving the quagmire behind. It's past dawn. The road warrior is driving into the rising sun. The Praetorian points out a dust storm off to one side. He has already turned towards it.
I thought we were heading east.
Gonna use the dust storm. Zigzag, confuse our tracks.
As so, the war rig tracks great zigzags in the sand. Pretty soon, the dust sweeps over them, all but blowing them away. Dissolve. Later, the sun is high, and the warlord's scouts have found the tracks. One scout calls to another some ways off, perched on top of a polecat.
This one's got a heading northeast.
That don't make no sense. They're saying south.
He refers to a flashing mirror way off in the distance. The news is being received back at the war party, assembling at the edge of the desert.
She zagged us. They're heading every which way at once.
Their warlord is not pleased. An elite guard lifts the history woman for all to see.
This is Miss Giddy. Her bones hurt. She's so frail it hurts to breathe. No matter what we do to her, she won't give 'em up. The whole day she's been put to the torture and hasn't spoken a word. What do we have to match that?
They come forward. The gun drivers, the lancers, the harpoonists, the bikers, the polecats, calling on their warlord.
Immorta! Immorta!
But he won't turn to face them. Boom, boom, boom! They are drumming now with their weapons, spanners, and tire irons, banging on their doors and roll cages.
Immorta! Immorta!
Boom, boom, boom! Coma's guitar begins to wail, then he turns.
Find them. Find them. Turn every grain of sand.
He lifts his mask so that the war boys alone have the privilege of seeing his face.
I want your rage. Give me your rage.
They are bellowing now.
Immorta! Immorta!
The drumming, the chanting, it's all very mosh pit, very prima. From afar, we see the war party storming out in all directions. The clamorous chanting is still in our ears. The murder of the crows, swirling down, down, towards two broken figures abandoned in the sand. Miss Giddy waves them away as they descend, squawking onto Splendid's corpse. Further on, the road warrior is having a break from driving. The desert rolls on and on. He looks down. It cannot be. He has a female body. Now he's giving birth to himself? Arms reach out. They're grabbing him from behind. He wakes, uttering a cry. The whole thing lasts for less than a second, but caught here between drama and reality, he is less guarded.
It's okay. Sleep while you have the chance.
He looks across the barren world.
How do you know this place even exists?
I was born there.
Why'd you leave?
I was taken as a child, stolen.
He looks at her. The face betrays nothing of the evils she endured.
What makes you think you can find it again?
I raged south. Mountains were always on the right. Then we were heading north, and the mountains were still on my right.
You were around the divide.
She nods.
We came to the Citadel. I was traded into his hands. I always figured home was across the mountains, due east, 2, 3, maybe 4 days.
Never tried to make it back before?
I found another life.
They're like lovers, exchanging life stories.
He tried to breed with me. I was barren, so he gave me to his Praetorian, who let me ride on the rigs and taught me the art of war. I was useful at it. When he was killed, I took over his command. I was the gun.
So, what happened?
They happened.
She means the girls asleep in the back. She speaks softly, doesn't want to wake them. Nux, however, is listening to every word.
When they came into their fertility, he wanted females guarding them. He'd already made his mistake. He gave them the history woman. She gave them books, and they learned of the world as it once was. They demanded to know why it all went wrong. They were outraged by men whose power exceeded their wisdom. I told them about the green place and the many mothers. And here we are.
Why'd you do it?
It came down to belief. Theirs was stronger than mine.
Belief.
That things could be better.
He stares at her.
Is that... it's not a good enough reason?
You had them back there.
Who?
The crows with steel beaks. It's ripe. The time is ripe.
How do you mean?
They're saying it's the end time.
The end of what?
Everything.
She looks at him hard.
Now what keeps you going one day to the next?
Habit.
She turns her attention back to the landscape. This conversation is going nowhere. By mid-afternoon, the war rig is deep into the desert. They stop on the crest of a dune, scanning the horizon. Way off, there's something glinting. Is it the war party? No, something else. A human up a pole.
I know this. I remember this. We may have found them.
Soon they approach. It's a naked woman, captive on a flimsy platform. She is barely conscious, wailing, "Help me! Help me!" The road warrior eases the rig to a stop, not too close.
It's a bait.
It's okay. Stay inside the rig.
The Praetorian climbs out, raising his arms. The woman begins to sob. "Hurry, please. They'll be back."
I am of the Volvalini. My birth mother was Mary Jabasa. My initiate mother was Katie Concannon. My clan was Swaddle Dog.
The woman has fallen silent. Suddenly she's waving her arms, signaling off in the distance, and ululating, "Yay! Yay! Yay! Yay!" Bikes are coming from out of nowhere. The naked woman is free of her binds and clambers down the pole. The rig is being surrounded. The road warrior raises his gun. The Praetorian goes to meet them. The Volvalini stands before her, glaring. "She says she's the daughter of Mary Jabasa. She says she's Swaddle Dog."
I knew Jabasa.
She comes up close, looks at her this way and that.
Smile.
For the first time, we see the Praetorian smile.
This woman has her eyes.
Did you come from the east?
From the west, from a citadel beyond the mountains.
The girls approaching warily. The Volvani beckon them closer. Everyone is lowering their guard. The Volvalini reveal their faces. 9 women, hard, weather-beaten warriors, none of them younger than 60. They are taken aback by the girls' youth and beauty, the whiteness of their teeth, the smoothness of their skin, the wag's swollen, fecund belly. For their part, the girls are awestruck. They're finally in the embrace of the Volvalini, heroic, legendary figures they have come so far to find. The day is full of hope. The road warrior and Nux ease out of the rig. The Volvalini eye them suspiciously.
The Pentralia? Who are they?
They helped us make our way here. They're sound.
The road warrior is grateful for the endorsement, but something weird happens. A man emerges from the dunes and walks straight up to him. right up to his face. He is ancient, an aboriginal, a creature of the desert, the eyes penetrating, searing.
I know you.
I don't think so.
I know you. I know you.
With that, he flicks his hand in the road warrior's face like he's testing his reflexes. The road warrior's hand goes protectively to his forehead, and for a moment, it seems to be stuck. He has no idea what happened, but by the time he has recovered his composure, the ancient man is gone, disappearing over the dunes with his spears and his briefcase. Meanwhile, out of laughter comes a casual question.
Where are the others?
What others?
The many mothers.
We're the only ones left.
But what about the green place? Where's the green place?
If you came from the west, well, you passed it.
The Praetorian is struck dumb. The truth has dawned on her, and capable too. The crows? She means the place with all the crows.
The black oozed up 20 years ago, oozed up foul out of the water table, leached everything, dead before you were even born.
The girls are gut shot. The road warrior. What now? Fade to black.
Choices. The night is still and clear. The mood is desolate. Our band of wretched humans are camped high on the dunes overlooking a prodigious salt plain. Volvolini are on the watch for any sign of the war party. Fragile can't bring herself to move. She's staring up at the stars when something catches her eyes. There's a star moving slowly across the sky.
Oh, that's what you call a satellite.
Haley?
Okay. I read about that. Satellite. What is that? What is it? They used to bounce messages across the earth. What messages? Shows. Everybody in the old world had a show. Could someone still be out there sending shows?
Volvolini have been trekking out there since the ooze, 100 at a time. Always the promise. If they found anything, they'd come back. No one ever has. Those are the plains of silence.
She laughs. It's her way. The wag rubs her belly.
You stay right where you are, baby ugly. It's kind of lost its novelty out here.
No. Oh, she's going to be completely gorgeous.
Oops. Sorry. The wag stares at the Volvolini, who sits cradling an extraordinarily long rifle.
You kill people with that, do you?
Killed everyone I ever met out here. Except for you. All of them with headshots. Right in the mandilia.
Thought somehow you girls would be above all that.
The old woman grins.
Here, take a peek.
She lifts the flaps of her saddlebag, revealing seeds. Packets, jars, little plastic bags full of seeds.
These are from home. I plant one every chance I get. So far, nothing's took. Earth's too sour.
The wag is impressed.
So many different kinds.
The Volvolini nods.
Trees, flowers, fruit. Back then, everyone had their fill. Back then, there was no need to snap anybody.
The road warrior occupies himself, doing repairs to the rig. A girl appears, flaunting herself. It's knowing.
I've been reading your back. You must be some kind of genius. Surviving the wasteland all by yourself. Must get lonely, though. Ever consider a companion? You know, for companionship.
He ignores her.
No lumps, no bumps, genitals intact. Together we can make a fine human.
There's broken glass in the cabin. Sleep it out with this.
I can be your watchdog. Someone to watch over you while you sleep. Someone you can trust. Just so you can get some decent sleep.
Plus all the bits in this.
He goes back to work, knowing bristles. The Praetorian approaches.
Come with me.
He follows her to where they can have a private conversation. She's struggling against her bitter disappointment. He would like to say sorry, but that's not his way.
I've been talking with the others. We'll never have a better chance to make it across the salt. If we scuttle the rig and load up the bikes, we'll have enough fuel and rations to ride hard for about 160 days. We can make it halfway across the world by then. One of the bikes is for you, fully loaded.
He takes it all in.
You're welcome to join us. Very welcome.
He stares at her.
I guess you'd like to make your own way.
He nods.
Thanks.
He's a free agent now.
And you. Thanks.
Her hand goes to his arm. He recoils. Can't help it. It's a reflex. They're both embarrassed. She withdraws.
We'll be leaving in the morning.
She walks away. The road warrior is back where we started, alone again, staring out into the void.
I know what's out there.
Huh?
Nothing. Years of nothing. There's nowhere to go but inside your head.
We can't stay here.
No. No. We go back.
Everybody is staring at him. Do they hear right?
There's only one green place I know, and these are the many mothers.
He's pointing to the girls.
Citadel Central? You're mad!
But he is fixed on the Praetorian. He's trying to give her something. Another chance.
Mr. Blue is spread wide across the wasteland, trying to pick up your tracks. We sneak by him, get to the past first. They would have cleared it to bring the war party through.
And we use the tanker to jam the pass?
We need 2 minutes clear. Get into position, decouple, and then kaboom.
Hope is stirring.
Say this works. What happens when we get to the Citadel?
He called everyone out. The only war boys left would be too sick or too young to fight. The only problem would be the winchmen. We'd have to convince them somehow to take us to the top.
They're wenchmen. They're not going to do it.
They will if we go under his gun.
He's pointing to Nux.
He'll be bringing back what's stolen, together with the perpetrators. Together with the perpetrators, they'll have to let us up.
Everyone is looking at the war boy. He is looking at Capable.
Sounds good to me.
I like these people. They think like us.
The old lady's grin.
Appear where you're least expected and strike when he's not prepared.
They're all looking back to the world they fled. They are filled at once with hope and dread. Fade to black.
The fatal terrain. The final engagement begins with the war rig gliding silently down a slope. The engines are turned off because they can see the war party way off on the desert floor below. The Praetorian is driving, and the road warrior and the Volvani are riding shotgun. The road warrior has a telescope.
2 camps, 6 miles to the south, and a bigger one northwest, about 10.
We have better cover to the right.
He nods. She kicks over the engines, and the great vehicle moves stealthily along the ridge. Just then, they see a figure running out from behind a rock. Indeed, it's a scout with his pants around his ankles, answering nature's call. The Volvolini don't dare call attention by firing their rifles, so it's left to the road warrior to bring the fellow down with a crossbow. The bolt strikes the war boy in the shoulder, but he scrambles over the top of the dune. Two of the Volvolini outriders go after him. The scout is making for his bike. The Volvolini pillion has unsheathed her dagger, and just as he pulls a flare gun from his saddlebags, she dives on him. He fires, but then the flare skips low across the sand. In no time, the scout is dead. It's quick, silent, and humane. With equal skill, the rider slides her back wheel and smothers the flare with sand. She throws herself on top of it just to make sure. She looks out across the desert. Nothing stirs. Close call. The infestation. The Praetorian does not see the war boy up the pole ahead, but the road warrior does. The war boy doesn't get a chance to fire a flare, but the driver makes it back to his vehicle before the road warrior can reload. As the war rig swoops down on him, the driver goes for the flare gun. He fires just before the impact. Although the vehicle tumbles over the side, the flare is launched skyward. It hangs there. The road warrior waits. Will they see it? Damn, there's a response. 10 miles off to the right. Pretty soon, flares are popping off all over the wasteland. It gets worse. Capable is pointing to assault vehicles coming right at them. The place is infested. The Praetorian doesn't hesitate. She brushes aside the leading vehicles and swerves over the side. The great war rig careens down the slope. The assault vehicles thunder after her, recklessly out of control. The Volvolini have trouble holding on. The drop is so steep, the rig threatens to roll. Assault vehicles do. It's a wild ride, but the Praetorian finesses it all the way to the bottom. Only one assault car emerges from the riot of tumbling vehicles. The Volvolini outriders make it too. They surge up alongside. Like buffalo shooters, they blow out the front wheel and bring the beast down. The race. There are dust clouds coming at them. Vehicles from the left and the right.
Go straight down the middle.
The Praetorian bangs the nitro. The war rig powers out across the wasteland. Will they make it through the gap before the packs converge?
In the warlord's camp, the drums are pounding. The Immortan can't believe his eyes. There they are, way out on the left. It's the war rig, no question, heading due west.
Why would they do that? Do they wish to surrender?
They're going back through the pass.
He calls his gigahorse forward and rides its huge wheel up to the cabin. He roars off, leading his troops like hounds to the chase. The pack is closing in. In the war rig, the precious cargo sits huddled in the back seat, protected by the Volvolini and Nux behind, the road warrior and the Praetorian in the front. The wag has her head bowed in supplication, muttering to herself.
What are you doing?
Praying.
Oh, to whom?
Whatever providence is out there. At the rear, Volvolini man the gunner's pod. One of them brushes her few remaining teeth. It's a pre-battle ritual. The nitro derby An assault vehicle sweeps in from the right, its wheels steel covered.
It's Razor Cola.
Huh?
He'll try to get ahead of us, spike our front wheels.
Indeed, the assault car is gaining. Razor Cola is on the bonnet spraying something into the blower.
He's spritzing the supercharger.
With that, Nux grabs a fuel can and a length of hose and climbs out of the cabin.
Don't go blowing my motors.
Gonna force him. Just a little.
Road Warrior gives him cover fire. Razor Cola is spritzing and shooting back. Nux empties the gold from the spray can around his neck and begins siphoning accelerant into it. But he's too late. The assault vehicle has surged ahead of the war rig, and the tail gunner releases the spikes. The Praetorian swerves. The spikes fail against the rig's front wheels, but don't go under them. They do, however, blow a tire down the back. The jostle causes Nux to inhale fuel. The Road Warrior takes his place. He siphons the accelerant into the can and sprays it into the mouth of the supercharger. The Praetorian feels the boost. The engines scream. The war rig surges. Not to be outdone, Razor Cola grabs another can and doubles the amount of spritz. His driver checks the tachometer. It's redlining. The assault car is overtaking the war rig once again, but the Praetorian won't let him get in front, not this time. She slams right into the bastard. The assault car rides up onto the cowcatcher. Razor Cola is a wild man. He takes a mouthful of accelerant and kicks it with 3 times the recommended dose. The motor squeals. The exhausts breathe fire. The assault car lurches forward. The Road Warrior has no choice but to suck up a mouthful and give the war rig all he's got. Razor Cola goes berserkers trying to top him. The vehicle rockets to the front. The G-force is fierce. The tachometer collapses. But the Razor won't stop, and the engine explodes. The supercharger launches his body skyward, and the war rig smashes the assault vehicle aside. Plan B. The Road Warrior scrambles back to the cabin. The war rig slows.
I think that would be Anamika.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Oh, I thought I was Death by Imperator.
Maybe
Is
I
it
got
this?
wrong on one sheet than the other. But
Oh, I don't.
you got Plan B and Death by Imperator.
Oh, okay, those are separate. Okay. The Road Warrior scrambles back to the cabin. The war rig slows. Had to back off. Number 1's lost power. 2's about to blow.
Sorry. We up our buffer. Have to jam the canyon on the run.
He hands the nearest Volvolini a spanner.
Unbolt the tanker plate. Start on the far side and work your way down to the middle. Leave the last 4 bolts.
He turns to Nux, who's back next to Capable.
You a black finger?
Nux nods keenly.
Go down. See what you can do for engine 1.
Capable doesn't want him to go. Strapping on his harness, he drops into the manhole which accesses the engines. Death by Imperator. The Road Warrior and the Volvolini are working as fast as they can, setting up the tanker for the decouple. The others are burning ruined tires for a smokescreen. A harpoon vehicle encroaches, a row of plows welded on the back. The Volvolini and the gunner's pod prepare to shoot.
One man, one bullet.
But her comrade stops her, because the Volvolini outriders have emerged from the dust. But the harpoonist is waiting for them with a length of chain. Wham! The bike goes down. The pillion recovers to see the stampede bearing down on her. She retrieves her rifle and rolls clear of an oncoming vehicle. Just. And there it is, the Gigahorse, thundering towards her. She holds her ground. She fires. The windscreen crazes a little right in his face, but it's armor-plated. She tries again, to no effect. The Immortan charges her down. She drops to the ground. The Gigahorse passes right over her. She rises to her knees and keeps firing. But the monster fuel truck coming up behind her mercilessly runs her down. And who's got his crapulous hands on the wheel? The People Eater himself. Is this still me or are we...
Nope.
Sorry.
The harpoon attack. Up front, they're working on the rig. When more harpoon cars appear, despite the best efforts of the Volvolini, they come close enough to strike. The harpoons snag in the back of the rig. The back of the rig. The plows drop, digging deeper into the ground. Like anchors, they slow the rig down, dragging it back. Nux, slung underneath, can feel the strain of the engines. The road warrior keeps working on the bolts. A Volvolini from the gunner's pod calls to him.
Lose the tanker. They're hauling us back.
No, not yet. Give me the bolt cutters.
He scrambles to the back of the rig. More harpoons have found their mark. He starts cutting them away. A large vehicle approaches from the other side. It launches 2 harpoons at the cabin. One of them comes awfully close to the girls. The cables tangle. Another Volvolini is dead. The vehicle slews wildly and rolls on its back. The drag forces an enormous half of the cabin. The drag forces are enormous. Half of the cabin tears away. The girls are exposed. The road warrior, meantime, cuts away at another cable. It lashes back viciously into the face of the driver. Smash. Another harpoon impacts close to the Volvolini, who is holding on to the road warrior. The driver swerves. He wants to crush them against the side of the rig with his cable. The Volvolini screams. It's caught her leg. The road warrior cuts it free. While he is distracted, a harpoon car swerves out wide. It's trying to slice him in half. The harpoon car swings back the other way. The road warrior is jammed, about to be crushed. But he severs the cable just in time. The harpoon car collides with the next, veers out of control. The last of the cables tears away. The 2 vehicles tumble end over end back into the dust cloud.
The assault of the polecats. A new force looms. War boys are climbing the poles, rocking from side to side like metronomes. With each oscillation, they move closer to the war rig. Then they land. The road warrior comes after them, while the Volvolini shoot those coming after him. Nevertheless, he cops a crossbow bolt in the thigh. While the Volvolini reload, a war boy swoops with dual thundersticks. The road warrior belts them away with his bolt cutters. Meanwhile, the war boys are making for the cabin. One of them is shot dead. The other turns to see an old woman reloading her rifle. It's the Volvolini with the damaged leg. And above her, a wild man. They charge at each other. The road warrior sidesteps the thunderstick, and clud! The war boy sails over the side. Up front, there's an attack on the Praetorian. 2 polecats swoop in and out, but by turns. The first approaches from the left and drops a smoker into the cabin. While she's coping with that, the second swoops in from the right with a bone saw. But before he could do any damage, he takes a bullet from the Volvolini's gun. By now, the first polecat is on his return swing. He hooks a wire noose around the Praetorian's neck and yanks on it savagely, choking off her carotids. Her foot comes off the accelerator. There's a shout. The polecat looks up. The Volvolini is about to serve him with the tooth splitter. Crack! He lets go of the noose. Someone grabs her gun. It's the second polecat. He lunges with the bone saw. The Praetorian shoots him point blank with thunderheads. Boom! He's blasted back. As the Praetorian removes the noose, the Volvolini collapses into the seat, clutching her neck. The road warrior, meanwhile, is busy cutting the arrow from his thigh and fending off the polecats with his bolt cutters. The next attack comes by stealth. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
The next attack comes by stealth. An assault bike eases alongside the rig. The pillion leaps aboard and, very acrobatically, hauls up the rider. One of their weapons is a chainsaw on a stick, and there are no Volvolini left up front to defend the Praetorian. The road warrior needs to stop them, but his way forward is blocked. He hurls his bolt cutters. The polecats are flung apart, but the pillion is already on top of the cabin. The road warrior reaches for a fallen thunderstick. The pillion raises his weapon. He's about to bring it down on the Praetorian. The road warrior throws, finds his mark. The pillion slumps forward onto the engine. Then it happens. The rider appears. The road warrior's left hand goes to his forehead, just as it did for the ancient man in the desert. A good thing, too, because that's when the rider fires his crossbow. The road warrior is hit. He stumbles and falls to the deck. His world goes topsy-turvy. Things are bad, but they're going to get worse. A taste of killing. The polecats are targeting the girls. One swoops in on Knowing. He grabs her. He's dragging her away. Everyone is screaming. She has a pistol, and without giving it a second thought, she starts firing. Over and over. Blam, blam, directly into his chest. Suddenly, the polecat's face changes. The rage falls away, and he becomes just another bewildered human. Then his hands weaken their grip, and he is flung away. Knowing is numb, caught between remorse and exhilaration. But already another polecat is on her, and someone else has grabbed her from behind. It's the bike rider. There is a tug-of-war. Everyone is pulling her. The war boys, the girls, even the wounded Volvolini. Up top, the road warrior groans. His world is coming back into focus. He drags himself up in time to see Knowing being pulled away from the war rig. He goes to help, stumbles. Something's wrong. His hand is stuck to his forehead.
Contract is
The contract. Knowing has been transferred to the Gigahorse. The Praetorian is trying to reload. The girls sit stunned. The bike rider reappears. The wag makes a grab for his crossbow, knocking his aim. The Praetorian throws her blade. It thuds right into his chest. As he falls back, the wag snatches his crossbow away. The bolts have pinned the Praetorian's shoulder pad to the seat. She wrenches it free. At the same moment, the road warrior is prizing his hand from his forehead. He looks at the barb. By some providence, it penetrated no further than the bone. Up ahead, more polecats arrive. Worse still, the Gigahorse is overtaking the war rig. The Praetorian has double-loaded the rider's crossbow. She looks for a shot on the Immortan. But he shoves Knowing in the way. So she turns her weapon on his gunners. Boom! Suddenly there's a polecat on the roof. He has a pickaxe. Boof! The road warrior tackles him. They crash onto the engines. The road warrior falls badly, undefended. The Praetorian hits the brakes. The polecat tumbles over the front of the war rig. This is hardly the time or place, but the road warrior and the Praetorian give each other the look. Man to woman, destinies entwined. There is a contract exchanged. Somehow they'll see each other through all this. There's another assailant. The road warrior fends him off. The pillion with the chainsaw is also on his feet, going for him. The Praetorian yells a warning. He spins around, using the assailant as a shield. Wham! They go over the side, the three of them. The Praetorian reaches out. She hooks the road warrior by the belt and stops him from crashing to the ground. The other two tumble into the path of the oncoming vehicles. The the chainsaw bursts the front wheel of a polecat vehicle, causing it to roll. The war boy up on its pole is whipped forward. Whoomp! He pounds into the ground, very close to the road warrior's face. The vehicle flips into the monster fuel truck, which begins to shunt it forward. It comes, grinding against the belly of the war rig, about to crush the road warrior. The Praetorian veers away. The wreck slides off the front of the fuel truck and falls back under the wheels of the war rig. Nux is flung about wildly by the impacts. The road warrior drops closer to the ground. The Praetorian struggles mightily to hold him, but he's slipping away. The straps of her prosthetic arm are breaking under the strain. Now things get a lot worse. The rider returns. His mouth is gold, and he has the Praetorian's blade. Before anyone can stop him, he drives it into her chest. The girls drag him back. The wounded Volvolini gives him a heave with her boot. His foot catches, preventing his fall. Fragile knocks it free. He falls to his death. The Volvolini slumps against Wag's legs. All her strengths are gone, even her optimism.
It tastes sour.
She dies, clutching her saddlebag of seeds. The girls are freaking. There's dying all around. The Praetorian tries to pull the knife from her ribcage, but can't. She's in bad shape, and she's still holding on to the road warrior.
The corral. Now the large war machines come into play. They have a well-practiced strategy. First, a brutal-looking war rig, known as the battle truck, thunders in from the right. At the same time, the Gigahorse sweeps out in front, while the fuel truck keeps grinding to the left side. The Praetorian swerves this way and that, trying to avoid them, but she is boxed in. The road warrior is struggling. The fuel truck is looming down on him. In a moment, he'll be scraped off the side. He tries to swing himself out of the way, but doesn't have the strength. Nux swings into shot and gives him a shove. The road warrior grasps the only thing he can in front of the fuel truck. By now, the Doofmobile has swept behind the war rig and closed the gate on the corral. The Praetorian has nowhere to go. It is simply a matter of slowing her down until she grinds to a halt. War boys are trying to board the war rig. The Volvolini from the gunner's pod are keeping them at bay. The road warrior is trapped on the front of the fuel truck, pinned down by machine gun fire. The situation is relieved by one of the Volvolini making her way to the front of the rig. She hurls a burning tire into the cabin of the fuel truck. The road warrior makes his move. He scrambles over the hood and onto the roof. He spins the machine gun around and then rakes the cabin with gunfire. From out of the smoke and fire come the cries of the dying. The release. Nux emerges from under the rig.
She had a leg out of bed. I hooked up 1,000 units of Fang. You're whole again. Where is she?
Capable is on the hood. The Volvolini are exchanging fire with the Immortan's guards. Capable is shielding the Praetorian. Next door, the people eater empties a clip into the smoke. When he stops to reload, the road warrior drops into view. What? The road warrior hauls him out of the seat and shoves him into the window. Smash! It falls away. There's Nux and Cable on the hood. While the Volvolini are reloading, the Immortan's guards are coming for Capable. But the road warrior intercedes, and they fall dead at the girl's feet. Now he takes the fuel truck forward. He surges past the Gigahorse. The Immortan rains gunfire on him, but he is using the People Eater's body as shield. The fuel truck is now ahead of the Gigahorse. The gate has been opened. The Praetorian swings the war rig free of the corral, and as she clears the back of the fuel truck, a flame car swoops in to attack the road warrior. The Praetorian guns her engines and consigns the intruder to the scrap heap. Whumph! As she draws alongside, he nods his thanks. They have clawed their way back from the brink. 2 warriors, 2 trucks. Instinctively, they know what each has to do.
The dancing trucks. War boys are making their way forward to replace the Immortan's guard, and the road warrior is running interference for the Praetorian. The Immortan gives it all he's got, but the road warrior just won't let him ahead. So the Immortan breaks. The Gigahorse drops away. The road warrior does the opposite. He accelerates forward. The Gigahorse goes around the back of the war rig and comes up the other side, but the Praetorian is waiting for him. She swings to the right, and there's the road warrior braking hard, rear-ending straight into the Immortan. The impact shunts the Gigahorse back, directly into the path of the Doofmobile, following faithfully behind. Boom, boom. The taiko drummers are slammed forward, while Koma, the doof man, bounces about on his bungee, oblivious to anything but the squeal of his guitar. The road warrior and the Praetorian check out the state of play. There's the battle truck on the left, swarming with the war boys, and on the right, 2 polecats ranging in on the field truck. He waits for her cue. She shifts down a gear and fangs it. The war rig shoots forward. The road warrior swings to the field truck across to the right. He hits the accelerator. She hits the brakes. The war rig drops back directly into the path of the polecats. She slams into one, which cannons into the other. Mayhem. Now it's the road warrior's turn. He powers forward between the Praetorian and the battle truck. Despite being shot at, he bullocks the massive vehicle out of the way and side by side with the Praetorian heads towards the mountains. In this moment of respite, the Praetorian turns to Nux.
Grab this, pull it hard and fast.
Nux takes hold of the knife handle, and likewise, the road warrior has a chance to deal with the crossbow bolt in his hand. Nux yanks the blade from the Praetorian's chest. One of the Volvolini binds the wound with a pressure bandage. You're leaking blood. Pretty soon you won't be able to drive.
The pass is out there somewhere. Look for tracks that lead us back in.
You should drive whenever she's ready.
But the Praetorian won't relinquish the wheel. Besides, there's an assault car out ahead. It attacks the engines with a flamethrower. The Praetorian veers around it, maneuvering so that the assault car is caught between the war rig and the field truck. The gunner turns the flamethrower on the road warrior, who comes at him from one side, while the Praetorian powers in from the other. The assault car is crushed between the 2 great war machines and spat out the back like so many pieces of junk. But there's a cost. The road warrior's vehicle is in flames, and the Praetorian is weakening by the minute. Then she sees the Gigahorse out on the right, moving away from them. A polecat car sweeps into view. A war boy appears at the roof hatch, thunderstick raised. But wham! He's whipped away. The field truck is slammed into the back of the polecat car. The road warrior's windscreen has been smashed out, and the flames in the cabin are intensifying. He looks across at the Praetorian, sees that she's been hurt. The Praetorian, however, is more concerned with what's happening on their right. The Gigahorse has found the tracks into the canyon. The Doofmobile covers the rear, while the recycled Bigfoot sweeps left to cover their flanks.
Haley, it's your turn.
The race to the pass. The road warrior and the Praetorian turn their vehicles towards the pass. The Gigahorse is several lengths ahead. The Bigfoot is determined not to let them closer. The road warrior takes him on, wheel to wheel. This allows the Praetorian to slide behind them and press after the Immortan. Even with a boost of nitro, she's barely gaining on him. She yells to the Volvolini.
Is there anyone left down the back?
No!
We've got to lose the tanker.
The Bigfoot drops off the road warrior and tries to come around the war rig on the inside. The Praetorian can see that the entire fuel truck is now in flames. It's going to blow. Too weak to shout above the noise, she signals to him. Jump ship.
Are you hit?
She's hurt. Come across, she's hurt. But it's over for the fuel truck. The fuel lines rupture and the first of the tanks explodes. The road warrior yanks on the choke and clambers out the front window. The rest of the tanks go. He leaps for the war rig, makes it across. Before he can be pulled on board, a war boy swoops in on a polecat and knocks him off. The Praetorian thinks she's lost him. But the road warrior hangs on to the war boy for all he's worth. They flail about wildly, one side to the other. Behind them, there's an almighty conflagration of the fuel truck has rolled into the battle truck. The war boy pulls a knife. The road warrior kicks hard off the ground. At the apex of the swing, the road warrior unclips the harness and the war boy plummets to the ground. So here he is, stuck up a pole, and the Gigahorse is entering the canyon. Now the polecat driver is shooting at him. He rocks from side to side. He's making for the war rig. The Praetorian veers closer. On the return swing, he reaches out and is about to make the leap. When the driver pulls on a handbrake turn, the road warrior is whipped away from the rig. Onto the Doofmobile. The Praetorian must go on without him. The end of the play. The Volvolini draws her attention to the Gigahorse, swerving from side to side.
What's he doing?
Feeling me out, setting to block me.
The Praetorian drops down a couple of gears and with a boost of nitro ramps up to the higher ground. The Volvolini stop to work on the release of the tanker and, shielded by the girls, shoot the gunners on the Gigahorse. As the Praetorian goes past the Immortan, their eyes meet one last time. Now the Immortan swerves high to the other side and, under nitro, roars past the Praetorian.
That is where our script actually ends. Which I know
Whoa.
seems a little odd. I told you that for those who got here earlier, that it's a very strange ending. And I don't know if that's where it's supposed to end or where it's actually, or there's missing pages. But that's our last page that we have before it starts repeating duplicate pages.
Oh.
So I think in the movie they actually make it back to the Citadel.
Mm-hmm.
But here
makes
there's
sense.
no more screenshots and no more script. So,
Huh.
and it does say, the final, the end play too. So it may be that this was where the storyboards just ended.
Mm.
And obviously this is an early version of the script and quite different from our final production. But yeah, one giant chase scene that goes forward and then backwards and then stops. And that's the entire movie as far as I can tell.
It's funny. Certainly I'm gonna have to see that movie. Sorry for being so late, by the way. I had to make a quick stop and it ended up being a little longer than I thought it was gonna be.
Well, would you like to introduce yourself, Aubrey? Since you didn't
Yes,
know-
I'm Aubrey McCoy. I am from Northern California, and my pronouns are whatever you want them to be. And because frankly, my dear, I don't care. And what else? You can find me on Instagram. You can also find me on SoundCloud and also on Spotify as well, under Aubrey McCoy. Yes, and on Instagram is Lucy and the Fair. I think that's everything, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's 30 minutes after 7 on the Pacific Coast.
Mhm.
Did you guys want to take a 5-minute break and then come back and talk about the script?
I'm good.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
I'm okay.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
I can see for a little bit, but
Yeah.
not
all
a
right.
ton.
Yeah, so I was thinking we could just talk about the script and then that way we can just go afterwards.
Yep. That'll work. So, what do you guys think?
It was fun.
Yeah, I really like it.
Yeah.
Makes me want to watch the movie now. And
Have
I
you
haven't
not seen
seen
it?
this. No, I haven't seen
It's
this.
Yeah, I had no interest in seeing it, but now after reading the script, I kind of want to. So
Hannah, Vicky, and Haley, have you guys seen it?
Yeah,
Yes.
I've seen it a couple times.
Yeah, me too.
And how
I had
do you-
I had a really hard time watching the first Road Warrior ones, Mad Max. I think it's called Mad Max.
Mm-hmm.
I had a really hard time watching the. So when this one came out, I was just like, yeah, I don't want to traumatize myself further with it. So I didn't, even though I knew it was a good movie. Like from all accounts, like anyone who's seen it has said it's a really good movie. But after reading the script, I'm like, maybe I will watch it.
Yeah, the first one is dark and weird, and what I gather, it's like one of the first Mel Gibson movies where he starred in it.
Yep.
But it's a lot more. Well, it was made a long time ago, so it's not
Oh,
as
of course.
glamorous as this one. But yeah, there's like definitely like a really intense scene. I know what you're referencing, Aubrey, where a girl gets like kidnapped, and it's very much like how, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the first one in the 70s, is like almost scarier than it should be because of the way that it's filmed. You know what I mean? So I get you. The world
Yeah,
seems
especially
smaller.
2. Yeah,
Yeah,
2 is even more brutal and awful, and
yeah. I've heard that.
it traumatized me. Let's just say that it was very traumatizing. So this one, I was like, no, I'm good. But this makes me want to watch it because there's hope in this one in the way that doesn't seem to be in the other 2 or in the first 2 movies.
I think they.
Oh, is this the third in a series of them?
Yeah.
I think this is the third one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Different
Yeah,
from the
haven't
Have
seen
any
any
of
of them,
you
obviously.
seen? Oh, sorry.
No,
Sorry, go ahead. Yes.
Have any of you seen Furiosa,
Yes.
the newest one?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, I have. It was so good. Yeah.
It's so good, and it's actually about the Praetorian. That's her name.
I've
Is
heard.
Furiosa.
Furiosa. Mm-hmm.
And where that one ends, this one picks up.
Mm.
So it's like
Yeah, so it's like
continuing
in
her
reverse.
story.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
it's
awesome.
really cool.
that would explain a few things I read then, because I was reading how when they were filming this one, there was a major tiff between the actor that played Mad Max and the actor that played the Praetorian, because they both thought that they were top billing, right? That they thought they were
Oh,
the
Charlie
best.
Theron and uh-huh.
If you think about it, this story really is
Tom
more
Hardy.
about the Praetorian Furiosa than it is about Mad Max. He's just kind of
Yes.
along for the ride, and this is her story, even though he's in the title. So they had to have, they had to tell them both, no, you're both the main characters, but you're totally two dual stories that are kind of doing this.
Happening at the same time. Yeah.
Mhm.
Like they're both the protagonists.
Yeah.
My cat is just being super weird, or just in this really funky, weird place at the moment. He's like on my lap, but he's kind of like upside down, like from the top of my leg down to the where I'm sitting. It's just so funny.
Probably glad you went and got him some cat food.
Well, this is how he usually likes to be. He loves having his belly rubbed. I know it's really weird for a cat, but that's its favorite place is to have his belly rubbed. So I'm like petting his belly and he's just kind of on his back, just loving it. But he's just in this weird upside down. It's very distracting. I don't know if you can't really see it, but it's very distracting, guys. Please trust me on this. He's just being really cute. So I apologize if I've seemed distracted. It's just because I have a cat on my lap. But no, so the Road Warrior is the same character from Mel Gibson, right? I was
think it's the
confused a
same
little bit.
character, but it's definitely a different actor because
Well, of
obviously
course,
time
because it's
difference.
like almost 20 or 30 years between the two, maybe a little more. So that makes sense, but the characters are the same one. That was where I was confused a little bit.
Yeah, because they never actually call him Mad Max.
Oh.
Right.
Except in
They
the
call him
title.
Max. Hmm.
Most of the characters don't get called anything at all. I mean, we don't even find out that her
Yep.
name is Furiosa, for
Yeah.
example. And, a few of the women have names, but mostly they're
Right.
just, they're just described in the script as like knowing or capable or whatever. And you don't hear any names.
The wag.
Mhm.
And Splendid. Hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's real fascinating.
I'm trying to remember. I think it started off. So, like, I think it's a. Nope. It's originated with the film. Okay, I was thinking possibly it was from a comic book, but I'm wrong. So yeah, I wondered if like that, like, if it was some lore that people know, they'd be like, oh, that's probably Furiosa, But I think it, yeah, I was like, I'm with Hannah there. Like when Furiosa came out, I was like, oh, okay, that's Charlize Theron's character, is Anna Taylor-Joy.
Yeah, Anna Taylor-Joy. Uh-huh.
Yeah, and then they're same, yeah. And then I think you're correct, Aubrey, that like Road Warrior is Mad Max, but it's yeah, Tom Hardy in this film. Yeah.
And I have seen a later script, or sections of a later script, and again, without actual names of the characters in that particular script, they're just named, the actors' names are in there. So it will say Charlie, and it will say Tom Hardy
Interesting.
in their characters. When they wrote the script, they wrote that particular version of the script with those people in mind. So I thought it was interesting. But yeah, and I also read that there's like not a lot of plot in this thing, but despite the lack of plot, every character has like an intense backstory that they developed before they filmed. So you get to see portions of that come through. Like the character is playing a guitar the whole time, which you saw a little bit of in this script. That yeah, it's kind of interesting how much they developed the backstory of characters who get 5 or 6 lines.
I've seen that happen in scripts before, though.
Mhm.
In characters I've played, I've developed if they don't have a backstory, I've developed. I'm sure all of you who've acted have developed really deep backstories for characters before. So it just helps making the character easier to get into.
Mhm.
So
It's how you can make a character authentic. They seem real because you can ask them you can ask the actress any question about the character and you have an answer because you thought about it, or you improvise it because you know the character so well.
Yeah, that's a great script with that one.
So that really helps, having those deep backstory, the actor with the writer, and then you understand that character's motivations and why they're doing what they're doing. It really does help because and if you don't have that, it's like, that's crazy. In my opinion, because then I'm like, why did that person do that? And they're like, I don't know, make it up. And it's like, wait, but you're the right.
And when you are in that state,
Like, okay.
it looks to the audience like she doesn't even know why she did that.
Unless you understand the motivation that the character is doing that for that purpose. Otherwise, they're just doing a thing, and you're like, so are you doing this because the script told you to do this? Yeah, that's what you're doing. You're doing this because the script told you, and not because this feels authentic to this character. And I've seen that in movies where that happens. You're like, to me, it's the difference between a good script and a bad script. You're like, that makes no sense. None of that leading up to that character. Suddenly they made this decision, and it makes no sense to where that character's going, oh, the script said so. That's what it was. I don't feel like that's the case for this. I actually feel like this is, for as little plot as it has, I feel like this is actually one of those character driving stories, and everybody in the script that I was a little late this time, so I didn't see I'm sure I missed quite a bit. But what I do notice is that every character, everything they do makes sense for who the character is. So it's a well-written script in that case. Like you can see the train of thought and why that character does it, even with Nux and all of that. Like you see the arc of the characters. So it's a very character-driven script, whereas some scripts are plot-driven scripts.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think and it's interesting because there's not that much dialogue, but yeah, not having seen the movies and just having read this with you all last week and this week, I it's a full world that I don't understand because I don't live in it, but like in like very sparse dialogue, they've created a very full world with like this is just how it is. With and it's probably like the slang that they've created for this world. There's the war boys, like that's like a specific job that everyone knows what that is, right? Or the Praetorian, that's a specific job that, this person used to have, now she has. I don't know what that job is, right? But in that world, they've created a very full world of just of like an understood reality for the characters in this script that me as an outsider I don't necessarily understand, but like I can see that this is a different world that everyone is living in. So I thought that was really cool how they were able to do that with very very little very little dialogue and really very little action outside of a car chase, really. But yeah, they really did create this very full world.
Even in the
Go ahead.
first Mad Max, there's a lot of chasing. And in the first one, it has a real jerky feel to it, which kind of leaves you unsettled. And something that they really put a lot of attention and detail into is what people are wearing, what their hair looks like, makeup. Everything is really bizarre and peculiar, which makes it, as you said, Anamika, it's a really different world.
Yeah, the other thing that I thought, even with when they're explaining the character, like some of the exposition, like the Praetorian, how she's telling how she got to be the Praetorian. She's like, well, I was given to the Immortan, and then they found out I was barren, I couldn't bear children, so then I got given to another person, and so I mean that's all exposition, but it doesn't feel like exposition. It feels like she's telling her own story, and that's how you can tell the script is well written too, is when it doesn't feel like exposition. Whereas like in other scripts, some really badly written scripts, Attack of the Clones, everything that's said, it just feels like exposition. It just feels like I'm explaining, and I'm explaining my motivations rather than it's there as part of that world. If that makes sense. So this is just a well-written script, for as sparse as it is. Something I wanted to say.
It makes sense that it was, I guess, more of like a production company's idea. Like they all wrote it together as it was going on. Because it's funny you say that. I was looking up cool facts about this movie, and one of them is that Charlize Theron like made up that actual backstory that she played the Praetorian, and she had to make that up because, like you were saying even earlier, like you have to sometimes make up your background character. So that was almost like, I guess I interpret it as like an ad lib, of like sorts of like, so like I'll just ramble these off. It's kind of cool. I'll only pick a few, but the practical effects for this film were used over 80% of the stunts and makeup and sets. So practical effects were used a lot in this. Which is so cool. The film took 15 years to make. Wow. What?
Wow.
Yeah.
What happens?
The film's editor, Margaret Sickle, had about 470 hours of footage to edit, which took her 3 months. How did she do that? Wow. Yes, and the film's stunt sequences used very little CGI in the movie, which is so cool.
That's really cool.
Yeah, and then Charlize Theron's character, Imperator Furiosa, originally had a backstory as one of the Immortan Joe's wives, but was infertile. So maybe in the final product they didn't, I don't know, but in this it's there. So yeah, that's pretty cool. And then Tom Hardy's character Max Rocanaxley, and they never say it. I'm not sure if they do in the movie, like in the final edit or in the final script, but He only had 63 lines of dialogue. So the Road Warrior spoke 63 lines. That's it throughout a 2.5 hour movie. You know,
I guess
actually,
it depends on how you count lines too, but
right? Yeah.
yeah, how many? Because probably how many times he spoke. Because in our script, we count every time it if it's one line takes several lines down. That's individually counted. Because I got 148 for him here, but
Oh, okay.
the number of times he spoke is probably half that. So that would be closer to your 60 some lines.
Yeah, that's interesting, right? Yeah.
Mhm.
Can you
Well,
imagine Shakespeare doing that with the lead role, only giving them 63 lines?
No, Will Kemp would have thrown an absolute fit. He would not have stood for that.
what's really interesting is that Max is an archetype. He's the silent protagonist, which is why he has so few lines. But his actions are what really make his character that I've noticed. He's not a man of a lot of words. He doesn't say a lot of things, but everything that he does is in action. So he's a very internalized character. So he's that character, and he's not necessarily a blank canvas character, but he's that silent protagonist character. So it's really fascinating because his presence is what makes it up, which is why you need an actor like Mel Gibson or like Tom Hardy to play this character, because that, I guess, charisma or that presence needs to be there. Because if you don't have a good actor to play those silent protagonist characters, you don't have a character. So it's really interesting.
Yep. You gotta do it all with your eyes, and your twitch of your head and everything else, those subtle little gestures that you have to do, that nonverbal, communication bit. That
Yeah, like
excel at.
yeah, like just or even just having that, like just those little itty bitty little parts of like, yeah, you really have to be in your body for those type of characters. There's a lot of
reading it, not to like, even though you're playing capable and you just mentions capable or whatever. And I liked how you kind of played with that, Aubrey, with Road Warrior. It's hard to like, normally we do scripts where we can act a little bit more. But this was still so much fun. I think like the pictures and all of like the storyboard, it's original, like it has to be something really somebody worked really hard on it at some point, because it was pretty
they
cool.
did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ask about that because we don't get a lot of scripts with storyboards in them. I mean, I know they do storyboards for every film, but we don't usually get to see them in a script form. And obviously this is the same person doing all the storyboards or close to it, because the style is very distinct throughout the entire script. But
So in film that I've worked on, the films I've worked on, I've just started doing directing recently, but I've had to write shot lists, and that's like storyboards. So it's either storyboarding or there's shot lists, and usually, and sometimes there's both. That I think there's also that where you have both of them. But it's just basically like, this is the script, this is a scene, this is the different shots that you want, and this is what is happening in each shot, and that is interesting in itself. And I really like it when they do have storyboards. But you're not always able to have storyboards, that I've noticed, especially in lower budgeting film or no budget films like I've been making or I've been in. So that's really interesting too. So it's really cool that you can see, but it's even more, what was I trying to say? It's even more of a really cool thing when you do see storyboards like this. Like, I wish we had more in those in the scripts we have, but it's so cool when you see them.
yeah,
Or if you have something like Neverending Story, where everything's just detailed out and beautifully written out. So it's really cool.
described instead of drawn.
Yes.
Copyright Kennedy Miller 2002, and it came out in 2015. So think about that, right? Like, there was a storyboard script like this in 2002, which, somebody do the math, like 13 years later it gets made. Yeah, that's insane. Yeah. And I wonder if maybe in the 2000s it was like heavily used, like it was a very accessible job to get whoever did the art for this storyboard. Maybe it was used often and in these fun kind of movies. It's interesting because, yeah, like you were saying, Aubrey, it's not used all of the time, something this detailed. It'll be more written out, or I'm sure you guys still use like post-it notes and that's scattered and like putting tape in the closet. I don't know. It has like almost like you're catching a killer. No, I don't know. That's what I.
That's really funny. I haven't seen anything like that, but then again, I haven't been on like really big budget films, so I don't know.
Okay, gotcha.
Yet. I haven't been on any big budget films yet.
Yeah,
Yet. Because I think that will happen. I hope, anyways. It's my hope that I'll get it casted in something big, but we'll see. Because I really love doing this work. The acting is really such a great place to be, as I'm sure everyone who's acted and stuff knows. All of you know, because you guys are all fantastic actors. And you're, just fantastic. Endpoint, fantastic actors. You guys are all fantastic actors. And so, yeah, it's something that I think we all strive to do, is play really meaningful and big, larger than life characters. So,
Well,
I don't know where I'm
anything
going
after
here.
that's going to be a downer. We should say goodbye.
Yes. On that high note, bye guys. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. I'm kidding.
I'm going to pause the recording here and our YouTube and call